way.
Swim so free.
The Capitol Hill to
Soccer bopper.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of Tune In Next Week. I am your co-host Brian. With me again, as usual, is my co-host John.
What's up, dude?
Feeling good, feeling great. How are you?
Man, I just like I said to you right before we hit record, man. There may be moments in this where I just laugh for no reason whatsoever, and just hearing that theme song taking me back to the early '90s of drama intensified, programming on TV. Like, oh my god,
teen romance, teen drama. That's the theme of this week's episode of Tune In Next Week.
That's right. So if you couldn't tell, we are doing an episode of the Sally Jesse Raphael show. No, we are doing Beverly Hills 90210.
Yes. This is
apparently not to be confused with 90210, because
right?
Apparently there was two shows with the same damn name.
The same creator, too. The guy that created this series also created the show 90210. Not to be confused with Beverly Hills 90210, the show that we're currently covering.
Now, did any of the same people star in it, or was there any connection between the two, or was it Darren Star just wanting to mess with people?
I think it was him wanting to mess and confuse with people. I because of the popularity and the just general amazing and awesomeness of this show, he wanted to capitalize on that by creating another show titled 90210. Oh, my favorite characters: Steve Sanders, Brandon Walsh, Dylan McKay. Oh, let me see what my old friends are up to in 90210. Wrong.
Because apparently the same zip code applies to cities that are not named Beverly Hills.
Oh man.
Like, why would you do that? Why would you make two shows with practically the same name that have nothing to do with each other?
I can't prove it, but I believe he wanted to capitalize off of this show's success.
Well, yeah, that, and also, I mean, I don't know about you, but I know that if I would watch an episode, if I saw my friends at school the next day or something, I mean, I was not going to refer to it as, oh, hey, did you watch Beverly Hills 90210 last night? No. Oh, yeah, that was a great episode of Beverly Hills 90210 last night. I mean,
you just call it 90210.
Right. So now it's like, so what happens if one of them's in reruns and I say, oh, did you watch 90210? Which one? The one with Brenda Walsh or the one without Brenda Walsh? I mean, what the hell?
Because of that, I searched for Beverly Hills 90210. I searched for it just using 90210.
Which I would too.
And I came across the other show, 90210, and I was amazed that it lasted as long as it did. 5 seasons. It went from 2008, I think, 2008 to 2012.
Okay. So this happened in a different time frame.
Totally.
Because Beverly Hills 90210 was 1990 to 2000.
It lasted till 2000?
Yeah. It was 10 years, 10 seasons, 304 episodes.
Oh my God. What could they possibly do?
Apparently a lot.
Yeah. Well.
But speaking of that, we're going to be talking about Beverly Hills 90210 specifically. Season 3, episode 19, entitled
Back in the High Life Again, named for the Steve Winwood hit.
Great song, by the way.
Yes.
Original air date of January 26th, 1993. And directed by one Bill D'Elia, someone I had never heard of.
Yeah. What else has he done directing-wise?
He's done a thing or two.
So he's directed this episode, and this episode was also written by the creator, Darren Star, and a writing room of 3 other people.
Right. Which was most likely the same writing room for many of the other episodes.
Right, I imagine so.
Right. If you want to watch this, you can watch it on Hulu. It seems like that's the only place where you can get any season you wish. Any season, any episode, all the way from 1 through 10. iTunes had only season 1, and this is specifically Beverly Hills 90210, not just 90210. Amazon had season 1 available to stream with a Prime account, or you can order your DVDs as well. If you don't have an Amazon Prime account, you can watch the pilot for free with ads, and then you'll be salivating for more teenage drama, so then you'll sign up for a Prime account and watch the rest of season 1, and then figure out what to do with yourself.
Sign up for a Hulu account.
Right, exactly. Then you got to pay to get rid of the commercials on Hulu.
Yes.
But anyway, we have a plot synopsis for this particular episode. Jack McKay, Dylan's father, decides to throw a party at the Bellage Hotel to celebrate his release from prison. Mel and Jackie's marriage crumbles. Brandon Walsh's interest in gambling takes a dangerous turn.
Does it take a dangerous turn, though?
It didn't look like it did.
It was not dangerous in the slightest.
No.
They were
not at all.
Really overhyping this air quotes gambling addiction that Brandon Walsh had.
Right. And I mean, and we'll talk about this in the episode here, but like at some point during the episode, Brandon is telling, I think it was Brenda, he was saying that, I'm a good guy. I don't drink. I don't sleep around. I do my studies, and I just like to put some money on the ball games just to make it interesting, and it doesn't seem like it's all that much of an addiction. It just seems like he's doing it for fun. He's passionate about it, but he's doing it for fun.
Yeah, he doesn't, but the way that he's putting it out there just makes it sound like it's what I would imagine an alcoholic or someone addicted to narcotics was like, I don't do anything else. This is all I do. Can I have this one thing?
Right.
Well, yeah, you can, but it's going to destroy your life, your family, your future.
Right, that's true.
Have fun in the gutter, Brandon Walsh.
Exactly. And speaking of that, let's jump right in.
Well, before we jump right in, I wanted to go over your experience with this show.
Okay.
Growing up, what were you aware of this show? How many episodes did you watch? What was your experience?
I watched it fairly consistently, and I remember I forget what day of the week it was on, but or it probably moved around. But I do remember specifically watching this show when it aired new. This in Melrose Place too. I was certainly a fan of these shows growing up. Mm-hmm. I went to an all boys prep school, so like I couldn't relate to that same high school environment that they were in. So I mean, there was a lot of things I couldn't relate to in the show, but it was just nice to see a show about people in my age group because I was right around their same age.
Yeah, I was peripherally aware of the show. I saw a dozen episodes, maybe a handful of episodes here or there, specifically the ones in the early years when they're still in high school. I didn't see this episode we're about to talk about, but I did see a couple early ones. I saw a couple of early college ones, particularly when Ian Ziering, or the character Steve Sanders, was scheduling classes and that kind of thing. I was made aware of the landmark episodes. There was some big plot twists that were heavily advertised that I watched, particularly the one where Dylan McKay. Give me just a second.
Luke Perry.
Yes, particularly one where Dylan McKay, aka Luke Perry, it was his last episode, and he drove off into the sunset on his motorcycle, never to be seen again.
Right.
Or otherwise, actually, for a couple seasons, he wouldn't be seen again.
Right.
But I've seen a couple landmark episodes. I watched it to watch it. I didn't watch it for enjoyment and not for any interest, but it was on, and I was around, and I watched it.
Yeah. Cool. All right, so we're just going to go ahead and jump on right in.
Let's get wet. Oh,
yeah. Now, I'm just curious, because the beginning theme song to this show, it has those iconic two knocks, right after the opening little guitar lick. I'm just wondering if Jason Priestley actually punched Ian Ziering in the face during any outtakes or if there's any goof takes.
Nah, I don't think.
Because he literally kind of mock punches Ian Ziering twice.
Is it him or is it Jason Priestley?
Jason Priestley mock punches.
God damn it. Luke Perry.
Oh, no, I thought it was Ian Ziering.
I thought it was Luke Perry.
I don't know. He should have been punching Brian Austin Green though.
He should have been.
He should have been punching him for real.
Hate that guy.
Yeah, you did say you were going to try not to be too.
All right, I'll keep the hate to the minimum.
Yeah. Okay. So I kind of made a note of that. I thought it would have been funny if you actually smacked him in the face.
This opening, though, a comical mixture of group shots, single shots,
and bad senior portraits,
glamour shots. And shredding of guitars and saxes.
Yes. And so cheesy. just beyond the realm of anything that could be construed as cheeseball.
Because it's just the looks to the camera, the knowing looks, like, oh, hey, I'm acting natural, but I'm looking at the camera. Oh, it just makes me.
It makes you
inside.
hate every single cast member.
Yeah.
You know, like you see them interacting with people like on, you know, during the montage, and then they turn and look at the camera in like a cheesy portrait studio, and you're just like, fuck you. Each one of them.
Yeah. The group high five, where there's maybe 7 or 8 of them, standing outside of a Jeep, and they all just jump up and high five.
Right. I wonder how many takes it took to get them to hit that right on.
Should have been no takes. Stop it.
And then, of course, how long did we have to suffer through this god-awful intro? 1 minute. 1:31.
1:31.
So you're sacrificing valuable time, you know, for exposition and acting and shots and, you know, plot information and shit. Like you're sacrificing this valuable screen time for this
gratuitous display of glamour shots.
Yeah.
There were way too many. If there is any opening theme song or any opening credits, anything like that, whatever you call that could have been shortened, it was this one.
Yeah, didn't you say there was another show that has a longer opening? Was it not Walking Dead? What was it?
Oh, Game of Thrones.
Oh, that's right.
Their opening credit sequence is about 2 minutes long. Yeah. If you're watching on HBO Go and they do previously on, then the opening credit sequence will take up to 4 minutes.
Wow,
it's ridiculous.
And that's just sacrificing time on screen where you could be seeing, or you know, you could be getting more plot exposition or getting more into what's going on in the episode.
I get that you want to credit everybody, and maybe there may even be some SAG regulations or...
You could do that at the end, though, right?
You could. I mean, I know some of these unions require opening credits for some shows, for some films. It's requirement that you have these credits at the very top.
Okay.
But even still, it's ridiculous.
It's completely ridiculous. So anyway, once we get through that, you know, that minute and a half long credit intro smut.
We'll just call it intro.
Yeah. You know, we got some establishing shots around Beverly Hills. And I've always loved things like this. They present the environment that they're in as this beautiful place to live. You know, and I've only visited California a few times. I mean, it's just a beautiful state anyway. But you know, I feel like they just make the people who watch this want to live there.
Yeah, they're really slapping you in the face with the palm trees.
Oh yeah. You know what? There should be a drinking game. Every time a palm tree appears on screen, you take a drink.
I like that.
I don't know how far you'd get into it though.
I would drink to that. A place like California, but a place like Beverly Hills, LA, that kind of thing, I would imagine you'd be drunk
in the first like 5 minutes of the show.
Maybe.
Yeah. Okay. So we got basically the camera's following a limousine around town, and then we're inside a limo, and it's basically Dylan and his pops, his dad. Dylan and his dad talking about how the limo was like a gift from the dad's attorneys, which made me wonder, was the dad wrongfully imprisoned? You know, which we found out later the dad was in prison for like organized crime and insider trading and some money issues.
One thing I do have to give this show credit for, and that is what may seem to be unnecessary or extra plot details, kind of beating you over the head with plot details for the regular viewer. For the casual viewer, it's totally necessary.
Yeah.
Knowing that Dylan's dad was in jail for 2 years, specifically, why was he in jail? The characters delivering this information to each other is done in a natural kind of way, but it's done. You know, the purpose is to let the viewer know, hey, this is what's going on if you're just tuning in.
Right, I think that's a great point, because one of the concerns I had before we even started doing this was, you know, we're dealing with, and we're going to have this come up in other episodes of our podcast here, but we're dealing with a serial show, a show that has a plot that progresses from week to week. And we're about halfway through season 3 right now. So we're probably 50, 60 episodes in. How are we going to deal with all this backstory? Because a couple times I found myself saying, well, who is Jack and Mel and who is this and who's that and blah, blah, blah. That's not a huge issue. Now that obviously we have like the internet and we can look things up and stuff, even if we didn't have the internet, it was pretty easy to figure out by the time the episode was over.
Yeah. The one thing I would say to its detriment is if I were Brenda Walsh or if I were Dylan McKay and this and these characters are telling me stuff that I already know, I would just, why are you telling me this?
Yeah.
Of course my dad's been in jail for 2 years.
Right, but they bring it up conversationally, so it's not so it's not weird.
It's just funny to me to put myself in their shoes and think like, why are you telling me this again? Of course, I've lived this.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. So they're kind of catching up and Dylan is saying, hey, what are you going to do now? And his dad Jack is like, hey, I want to throw a party because I'm out of here. And he's staying at this Bellage hotel, which sounds like, if it's a fancy name like that in Beverly Hills, it sounds like it's a fancy place. It looks kind of dumpy on the outside.
You thought so?
A little bit. Yeah. I mean, I have seen. Now, granted, this is 2016, so obviously our standards for high-end hotels are they've probably gotten a lot more sophisticated as the years have passed. But just that hotel, it looked kind of dirty. It just didn't look like it was as prestigious as it seemed or as it should have been.
Yeah, I'm used to seeing fancy hotels and some downtown metropolitan areas, and with a few exceptions, they're usually just large buildings.
Right.
Then again, I've been to Vegas several times, and those hotels are opulent.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to going next month.
Yeah. They're impressive. So I guess for me, I saw the building, I saw the hotel, and I was just like, it's a hotel. Right. I didn't really take that it was supposed to be fancy from the name, though I should have. It sounds a lot like Bellagio. Right,
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So the limo pulls up.
The limo arrives at the hotel, and there are a absolute swarm of reporters waiting to talk to Mr. McKay. And, he seems like he lives for this stuff. He seems to love talking to reporters.
Oh, he's so into it. And I was surprised at the amount of reporters. Like, this guy had just did some insider trading. He got some money that he shouldn't have gotten because of this, that, or the third. So why are there so many reporters out here? Well, they let us know a little later on in the episode that he has over 300 separate civil suits filed against him. So not only did he steal a little bit of money through insider trading, but it alludes to him stealing a huge amount of money from a large amount of people. Right.
So it seemed like he was embezzling people, or something certainly a lot more grand scale than just a kind of a small prank or a small thing. So it seems like it was a pretty big deal. I don't ever remember hearing about his case being a major plot point, but maybe this is the only episode where that comes out.
I don't know, man, because I was looking a little bit at the wiki, and he's in and out of the show, not regularly, but for a while he was in and out until about season 5 or so, where he died.
Yeah.
And then he comes back like later on. It turns out he was in witness protection the whole time for something.
Right. And probably too late to say that our podcast will contain spoilers, even though we yeah, and I just realized we're on episode 10 already. This is episode 10.
Yeah.
See you next week. So if you couldn't guess from the previous 9 episodes, we do occasionally spoil things. So, but no problem.
I think the statute of limitations ran out on this show several years ago.
I think so. I think you're right. Now we got this party scheduled for later on that night at the Bellage.
Yeah, Dylan starts calling people, inviting them to the party that his dad wants to have thrown. The first person he calls is
Kelly.
Kelly and David. Kelly Taylor and David Silver.
Right.
And who are related by marriage at this point.
Correct. And that's actually one of the sort of issues with this particular episode is because David's father, we find out, is a womanizer, and he has a thing for dental hygienists.
Yeah, and he looks so weird though. I mean, he's got the big bug-eyed glasses, like the lenses are too large, too round, and he's got just a cheap mullet. And it's not even a good mullet.
And wearing a droopy suit too. Like a suit looked like it was probably about a size too big for him. I mean, like I feel like it could have been cut a little better.
Well, that's really a holdover from the 80s and early 90s.
Right.
So it's in style at this point to wear over large clothes, but even still, it just looks sloppy on a person.
Yeah, I agree. But we find out through a heated argument between him and his current wife, or Kelly's mother, that things are not working out, and it sounds like they're heading for divorce. And at first, in the first couple of minutes we saw them on screen, I was thinking that Kelly and David were like a couple, but then I remembered that they're brother and sister, they're stepbrother and sister. So it was kind of surprising to me that those two actors were actually really good together on screen.
Yeah,
I feel like they had really good chemistry as brother and sister. They had a pretty good relationship, and they, it wasn't campy, and it wasn't as cheesy as like Dylan and Brenda, or Dylan and Kelly, or Steve and like it wasn't as cheeseball. It seemed kind of genuine and natural.
Yeah, I
still can't stand Brian Austin Green. I'll agree with you on that.
The fact that I didn't pick up that it wasn't, because I didn't notice that it was cheesy or anything, it kind of flew over my head there, and I think that's a testament to their on-screen chemistry that I didn't pick up on anything out of the ordinary.
Yeah. So she gets the call from Dylan saying, "Hey, come to this party," and she says, understandably, I don't think I can because we got some pretty heavy family stuff going on around here, and which makes perfect sense. It's like, hey, my parents are about to get divorced, and we got to figure out what we're going to do with ourselves. And Dylan is like, hey, come to the party. And then Dylan goes, oh, well, bring them too.
Yeah, bring everybody.
Come argue at my party. Like
maybe the party will take their mind off of whatever heavy shit's going on at your house right now.
I don't know, man.
I can't fault him for the invitation, but then again, I wouldn't have invited them. I want to hang out with my friends, not my friends' parents.
Exactly. And then, as it turns out, we find out that his dad was inviting everybody. He was inviting his friends and Dylan's friends and everything. So we knew that it was going to be a mixed bag of a crowd,
right,
from the get go. But so then David's like, no, don't worry about it. You can go if you want to. I got to study. And so Kelly says, yeah, I'll go. And then we go over to the Walsh residence where Brenda gets the call inviting her to go to the party, and she's like, "Well, hey, I'll call you back." And we find out through some dialogue with her dad that her dad is not a fan of Dylan's dad at all.
No, they express disgust at the thought of Jack McKay.
Right, and we're talking Jack McKay is persona non grata.
Right,
he Jim Walsh wants nothing to do with him whatsoever, but as it turns out, he can't get away from him because he's involved legally with Dylan's trust fund.
And this is where that character cue comes up, where Brenda's dad, Jim Walsh, says to her, "Oh, he's a known felon. He has associations with the mafia. He's been in jail for insider trading. Blah blah blah." And this is where they kind of give you the character history,
right? And they give you just enough backstory to get you by.
Yeah, and Brenda is like, I know all this, but I'm not going to see him. I'm going to see Dylan. So just because he happens to be there, why can't I go? Well, I'm your dad. You should trust me. Don't go. Please don't go. And she's like, all right, Dad, I got this. And she, and then the scene cuts to, who's next?
Let's see. Then we're over at the Peach Pit, and
Steve and Brandon.
Steve-O and Brandon.
Steve is wearing just the best Adidas tracksuit.
I didn't really notice it. I noticed at one point he was wearing this crazy like rainbow explosion shirt, but I think that was in a different scene.
that was at school. At the Peach Pit, he's talking to Brandon, who's I guess he's a waiter, or he's a waiter at the Peach Pit. And Steve is trying to say, hey, come to this Laker game with me. Come to this Laker game with me. And Brandon's like, no, why go? I've got a bet on it. I'm not going to go. I'm just going to work here.
With his out of control betting problem.
Yeah, well, the plot synopsis and everything about it is saying that he's got a gambling problem, but it just seems so innocuous.
Right.
I understand we're planting the seeds of maybe a larger gambling issue.
Right, and maybe in future episodes it gets to be more problematic. But before watching this episode, seeing that in the synopsis, I was expecting him to be missing dinner with his family and not showing up for school because he was stuck at like the blackjack or craps tables at a casino.
Yeah, sports betting is a whole different thing though.
Sure.
I don't really see it as. I guess it all can be serious, and you can lose money, large sums of money easily on all of it. But I mean, this is a kid in high school, and he's betting $100 a game. Yeah,
which I mean that's a lot for a kid, but then again, they're in Beverly Hills, so that's probably not much for them. Right.
So Brandon's like, I'm good. I'm going to sit this one out. You go to the game. Steve takes his Adidas tracksuit and sits down with Andrea, who I gotta admit,
wait, it's Andrea.
Andrea. I apologize to Andrea. I apologize to Beverly Hills 90210, and I most of all I apologize to Darren Star.
But anyway, he sits down with her, and now I can't remember. Did they ever have a thing, or was she never? Did she ever date anybody on the show? I don't ever remember her as being involved like the other girls.
I don't know. Based off of their interactions, Steve and Andrea, I assume that they had a thing together.
Or maybe this might have been the budding of that, because I could definitely tell there was some sales on the Bone Zone Railway. There may have been some sales for tickets to the Bone Zone. We just don't know when that was happening, but you could see some chemistry between them for sure.
They're building the Pound Town Express.
That's right.
So Steve's tracksuit is talking to Andrea about her hair. Well, she actually brings it up. She's like, I should do something different. You like blondes? You like redheads? And he's like, if you want to do something, do it. Make it radical. And then they have like a little back and forth. And she's like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. So indicating that she's likely going to color her hair. Right. And this is a big deal for her. This is a big deal.
Right, because she's a bookworm. So, I mean, the one thing I can tell you from what I've seen of the show is I know that she is not the most interesting character. No. She's always known for being kind of nerdy, not really, kind of conservative, not really going out there.
She's really not hot.
She's not bad looking.
No, she's not bad looking, but she's no Kelly Taylor.
Of course not.
She's no Shannon Doherty. She's no Brendan Walsh.
Right.
Brenda Walsh.
Well, hey, anybody. But anyway, so, she talks about wanting to color her hair and everything, and he's like, yeah, go for it. So next thing we know, we're over at the Bellage.
The Bellage Hotel.
And the party looks pretty lame, and there's cheesy, smarmy jazz music playing in the background, and there's a couple of, older people in there, clearly friends of Jack McKay's. No, none of Dylan's friends are there, and the only person that shows up for Dylan is actually Kelly.
That's really the only reason why I would say it's lame, is because none of Dylan's friends are there.
Right.
The food, the setting, the music. I'm not going to turn my nose up at some smooth jazz.
Oh no, not at all.
No. But it's at this hotel room, and there's really no young people there. And
right.
I was under the impression, and we kind of talked about this a little earlier, the hotel, to me, didn't seem all that fancy, but apparently it is a fancy hotel, because when Kelly showed up and I saw all of the guests in attendance, I'm like, why is everybody dressed to the nines? We've got suits, we've got sequin dresses, we've got cocktail attire. What is going on here?
Right.
But upon further, I guess... further discussion, and realize that this is a fancy establishment.
Right.
You're not going to be invited to the Bellage and not wear a cocktail dress, not wear a suit.
Right.
So I was a little taken aback by that. But Dylan says, "Hey Kelly," the way he greets Kelly, he's real touchy on her, and I wasn't aware of their past.
Right. We learned about it a little bit later on in the episode.
Mm-hmm. I was kind of aware of their future. I knew they had an on-again, off-again thing, but I didn't know what the extent of that was.
Right, and I remember that. Dylan and Brenda were on again, off again as well, And I thought, at least in this episode, I thought that they were together. They were on.
Yes, I thought so too.
So then seeing him be all touchy, kissy with Kelly, I was like, okay, well, obviously not. And then you find out a little bit later on that was the case.
Well, Brenda thought she was with him too.
Oh, yeah.
Because she didn't call, well, the way she was talking to Dylan on the phone when he first called her and invited her to the party. And then I just, based off of her reaction when her dad said don't go to the party, I was under the impression that, oh, well, she's with him. She was with him, and because she's denied for this party, she should at least call him back and tell him, hey, my dad says I can't go. It's probably not a good idea.
Right.
Let's talk later. Whatever.
Right.
But we're back at the party. Dylan takes Kelly over to meet his father, and his father just smarms it all up. Says Dylan has great taste in women, and brings his woman over, who also happens to be a blonde, though much older, cougar-y blonde.
Which appropriate for a man his age.
Yeah,
I think
very
they made a cute couple.
Yeah, I mean she was a good-looking woman.
Yeah,
but this he just lays it on a little too thick for me.
Yeah,
I don't like this guy. He's all smiley when he gets out of the limo to greet the reporters. He's all hands-on when it comes to Kelly. He's all hands-on when it comes to his woman. He's just kind of
setting the stage for, I think he's setting the stage for the viewers not to like him, or he's setting himself up as a douchebag.
Well, he did a good job.
Yeah, I agree.
Did a good job.
Yeah, I mean, he was setting himself up as a douchebag because of his attitude and how he behaves, and it you really start to see this as the episode develops, because you really see his character start to have more screen time, and you find out what's really going on.
Yeah, one of the things after he excuses himself to walk his lawyer out of the party, I forget her name, but his Jack's wife, girlfriend, what have you, is they're all saying, well, what's up with Jack? It's like, he doesn't have as many people here as I would expected. And well, he doesn't have as much money as he used to. So there's a hint that he's hurting for money.
Right.
Despite the fancy hotel, despite the limo ride and all of that.
Right. Right. So then after that, we're back at the Walsh place,
which Brandon Walsh is watching the Lakers play the Cavaliers, NBA basketball game, and who walks through the door but his sister Brenda. Now the doorway, this is in their home, and it looks like a doorway between the hallway and a living room, or a hallway and a den. Mm-hmm. This is a circular kind of door, almost like a Hobbit door.
Yeah,
it's got
it's an archway.
It's an archway. That's a better description.
A lot of the doorways in their house are that arch type of thing. Even with like their front door, is has an arched top, and I think that's kind of a nice design. I don't know, is that like a sort of a South American type of design, or like a Spanish type of thing?
I don't know, but from what I've understand and what I've seen from other films, other TV shows, that's like an architectural thing that's prevalent in the Southern California coastal area.
Yeah, but and there was like flowers all around the arch.
There's a flower trim, I guess wallpaper or painted or something, but this flower garland like trim around the doorway just cracked me up.
Yeah. You specifically mentioned that like when the scene started, you were like, oh my God, the doorway. But so Brandon's engrossed in a basketball game, and just like a typical sports fan, he's like, yeah, come on, do it, come on, and completely oblivious to this, Brenda's like, I need to talk to you, and he's literally said to her, I will talk to you as long as you need after the game.
Yeah, so hang tight, Brenda. What is so important that can't wait for the end of the game?
Yeah, and I mean, I get, brother and sister wanting to, sister going to the brother because she needs advice and everything, but he could have been a little nicer and said, hey, I really want to see this. I've got some money on this, and if you give me 15 minutes till the game's over, I'll be happy to talk to you afterwards. I mean, that would have been enough for me if I was Brenda, but apparently she just kept poking him like a
Yeah.
Like an annoying little 2-year-old.
Brandon could have been gentler. Brenda could have been more understanding.
She could have been just more cognizant of what was going on. I mean,
Yeah. This is the line where she's like, "You're gambling on this game? Why are you gambling on this game?" And he's like, "I don't smoke. I don't drink. I do well in school. I'm doing so well that I'm sleeping through most of my classes and still acing it. Why can't I have this one thing?" Way to justify your addiction.
Yes. So she's like, "Oh, excuse me," and she just turns around and leaves. She seems to be the center of drama in this show, from what I'm noticing.
Yeah, well...
I mean, then again, I'm talking about only one episode, but, she seems to be the one with the first one to drop a dramatic quip or some sort of like, huh. She seems to have the most tude.
Yeah, she does. She does have a lot of tude.
Yeah, pretty good. Either not as much as or almost as much as David Silver. We'll talk about him in a minute.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. The two of them are drama queens.
Yeah.
Complete drama queens. But anyway, so she leaves and whatnot, and now we're back over at the party where we're out on the terrace, and
this blows my mind.
Yeah, and what specifically?
So they're out on the balcony, and Kelly's on the rooftop, and she has like her shawl. She's got a really nice red dress on, but she's got this red shawl around herself. And she's cold, and Dylan comes up, and he starts reminiscing with her. He's like, we should go swimming." "Well, I don't want to go swimming. It's cold outside." He's like, "Well, the pool's heated." "Well, I don't have a swimsuit." "We can go downstairs and buy you a swimsuit."
Because how far could she possibly live from the hotel? But she's gonna go buy a swimsuit.
It's nighttime.
Right.
And it's based off of the time of day that he called her, based off of the party that she then showed up at. I mean, she was in sweats, almost she was in jammies.
Yeah.
And her hair was all up. When she showed up to the party, hair done nicely, wearing a nice dress. She had to have gotten ready for this party.
Right.
Then again, they spent some time in this party. The party seems to have been winding down. To me, based off of what's going on, this is about 2-3 in the morning at this point.
Right.
So he's like, "I want to buy you. I'll buy you a swimsuit in the hotel downstairs." "Oh, all right, all right. I'll just go downstairs and buy you a one-piece swimsuit in your size with enough time to come back upstairs and get in the pool." To me, that was just a lot. That was a lot to me.
I agree, and I mean, not to mention she lived in town, so I mean, how far from the hotel could she possibly have lived? Why couldn't she just run home, grab her bathing suit, and be back? I mean, it would have taken her maybe half an hour.
It would have taken her, I don't know, but the fact that they're in Beverly Hills, and I would imagine that money is no object to these people.
True. That's true. But of course, it took a little coercion for him to get her to even agree to do this, and it just seemed like every line out of his mouth was, it could have easily been construed as an invitation to,
"How can I get you
Pound
in
Town."
this pool?"
Right. And it was so painfully obvious.
"Let me take you to Pound Town. Population 2. I'm the mayor. Get pounded." Anyway, so they get in this pool. They get into their swim trunks. They get in this pool, and they splash each other. They talk about Brenda Walsh. Why? And then they get all makey outy.
Right, but now bear in mind they're talking about Brenda Walsh because Brenda Walsh is basically we don't know whether she and Dylan were together at this point, but we know that Kelly is, quote, the other woman, and Kelly is saying, "Well, I don't feel comfortable being the other woman." And Kelly's got a good heart about it. She wants to be honest with Brenda, and so that because they're friends, and she wants to make sure Brenda is okay with her dating Dylan here. But at the same time, Dylan is like, "I don't care. I choose you."
Right.
And he's not thinking about Brenda. So I mean, I was like, in one sense, that's kind of douchey.
Yeah, they got real close in the pool.
Yeah.
So they start making out, and there's some underwater shots of them having some horseplay underwater.
Yep.
Kelly's swimsuit almost comes off. And she wraps her legs right around his waist, and they're making out.
Oh yeah.
So
we're talking hot and heavy right here.
to me, if we're going this far, we're at least hooking up.
Of course.
We're hooking up. Especially if she's leading the way like she is. But anyway, that's besides the point. They get hot and heavy in the pool, and then we don't really see what happens. We don't see the culmination of the scene.
Right.
So we kind of move on from there. But goddamn.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, definitely a good spot for a commercial break. That's for sure.
Right.
Given the tweens the ability to cool off after that little hot moment.
I needed some cooling off.
Exactly. Okay, so we are now over at the the pharmacy, and Donna and Andrea are shopping for hair coloring stuff, and you see Andrea still kind of going back and forth trying to decide what color she wants to do, and she doesn't want to go too extreme, and you could definitely tell she's real apprehensive about doing this. And I made her note that Donna's wearing tights like she looks like she just came off the set of Star Trek.
Really? I didn't notice her outfit.
Oh, she was wearing tights that were just revealing everything, and something like you would see on like a sci-fi sitcom.
I am disappointed I didn't notice that. I was more concerned with Andrea and the surrounding scenery to really notice Donna. Tori Spelling is very, I wouldn't say unattractive.
I think you used the term hideous.
No, that wasn't hideous. It was atrocious. It was
I don't know which one's worse.
Probably atrocious. No, hideous is worse, but I didn't use hideous. Her face just doesn't do it for me, and because of that, I don't spend much time looking at her when she's on camera.
Okay, and that's fine.
Yeah, which funny that those two in particular were hanging out in a scene where I was not paying attention to the characters on the screen.
Right.
But yeah, they're Andrea's vacillating back and forth. Do I want to do blonde? Do I do red? What if I mess it up? And Donna's all like, well, you just dye it back if you mess up.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the end of the world. It's just hair color.
Yeah, just hair color. And if you mess it up too bad, just shave it all off.
Exactly. It worked for Sinead O'Connor.
It worked for Demi Moore.
Yeah, there you go. And so the next scene, we're over at the hotel, and Dylan and his dad are kind of talking about money for his future. And this is where we find out that Dylan has like a trust fund set up for him that he's getting small payments from, and he won't have access to the full bit of it until his 21st birthday, which we find out a little bit later. And this is actually where we find out that Jim Walsh is managing that fund.
Yes.
And this is where we also find out that Jack McKay has some ulterior plans for that money.
Yeah, I mean, everything's going just fine. Everything's going just fine for Dylan. He's getting, monthly checks from the trust fund. He's going to get the lump sum when he turns 21. It's being managed just fine, but Jack is just pushing the issue. But is he doing a good job? Well, Dylan has to say, well, I don't know if he's doing a good job. He's investing it somehow. I'm getting regular checks. I mean, I have no reason to be concerned. Right. And Jack keeps pushing the issue. Well, if you don't know, maybe you should know.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm surprised as a father he's wanting to do that now, because his kid is a senior in high school. He's probably got lots of projects to deal with and things to worry about, and he's got his early 20s to live through. I would highly doubt that a kid in their early 20s wants to learn about how to manage a trust fund.
No.
I would only want to learn that if I had to.
Yeah.
But
Dylan doesn't have to.
No, he doesn't. I mean, I would much rather have somebody with years of experience and training to manage it for me.
What's funny to me is that Dylan doesn't see his dad's
criminal side.
Well, he knows the criminal side, but he doesn't recognize the poking and prodding at the trust fund for what it is.
Right.
I'm an outsider looking in, and of course, my perspective is colored by my third party viewing of this.
Right.
But even still, how can you not
How is it not
suspect.
obvious?
It's
Yeah, how is it not obvious what his plan is? I mean, I don't think it could be any clearer.
It's nothing but obvious.
Right.
I don't know.
Right, but Dylan is just seeing it as like, oh, hey, my old man needs money. I'm going to give him money.
I
But
don't think he sees it as seeing money. I think he sees it.
well, but Dylan said, I'm more concerned about my dad than I am the money.
He did say that. Yeah.
You know, so like his intentions are good, but the thing is, he doesn't realize he's getting himself screwed in the long run.
Yeah. Your dad is taking your money, the money that is yours, that was entrusted to you.
Right.
Hence, trust fund.
Right.
Why? I appreciate that you care about your dad more than the money. However, your dad's past, if it's any indication, it's not something that is good for him or good for you.
Right, and it raises a huge red flag.
Like,
a huge red flag saying, hey, do I really want to let somebody with a criminal past have open access to this money that's been entrusted to me?
How long has Jack McKay been out of jail? How long has he been free?
A day.
And he's already after Dylan's
scheming.
trust fund.
Yeah. Yeah. So just red flags all over the place.
Right. So next scene, where we at next?
We're at the Walshes.
And Brenda's pouting about the party.
Drama queen herself, being little Miss Pity Party, and the phone rings, and we all know how little Jim Walsh likes Jack McKay, and turns out Jack McKay is calling to speak to Jim Walsh.
Right before this phone call, he's reading the newspaper, and this is where we find out the information that 300 the criminal proceedings are over and resolved, but the civil suits are still pending.
Right.
So this is all information is still coming out about Jack. And then Brenda comes down, pouts, the phone rings.
Right.
It is speak of the devil.
Right. And I got to say, Jim handles it very professionally. He says, okay, what would you like? And Jack McKay is Mr. Casual, Mr. I'm everybody's friend. Hey, let's set up a meeting. I want to meet the guy that's been taking care of my son while I was not around. And Jim Walsh is like, okay, call my secretary. She'll set something up. Just very businesslike, which is the best way to handle dealing with somebody that you don't want to deal with. Just be super professional with them. It's always the the high road to take. But, so they set up a meeting, which we're going to talk about that meeting in a second because that's pretty important. But, right after that happens, Brenda's talking to her mom and, she says, hey, I'm really worried about Dylan. And she makes kind of the same point that we just made a few minutes ago. She just says that, I really would not want an ex-con handling money like that.
No, especially the type of ex-con that he is.
Right. So, Brenda can see it clear as day.
Right, and she hasn't even talked to Dylan more than a few sentences since his dad's come home.
Right, nor has Dylan even made the time for her.
No,
he wants nothing to do with her.
No, but probably for different reasons.
Of course, right.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're over now. We stopped by David Silver's house, and he and his dad are having a pretty heated argument. And his dad is looking at him with his deadpan look, and he's like, "I'm sorry. I have a problem with monogamy." And David's bringing up some great points, and he's saying, hey, look, what am I supposed to do?
David is ripping into him.
Oh, yeah, he's pissed.
Yeah.
He's royally pissed. And he's like, what am I supposed to do? Blah, blah, blah. And David is like, and his dad is like, I'll find a nice 2-bedroom apartment in town. And David is like, well, what? You expect me to keep living with you and have to keep this up and whatnot? I mean, it's super unfair to David. I mean, if that guy has the money that it looks like he has, he should rent David his own apartment.
Well, he is in high school. As well as that's something that probably should happen based off of the relationships that we see.
Right.
I mean, the kid's still in high school. You really can't be doing that. He has to have parental guidance. He has to live with a guardian.
True.
But oh man, you said that Mel has like this deadpan look about him.
Yeah,
I didn't see that. I think he was embarrassed. He looked contrite. He was ashamed of himself. I got all of that from that actor.
Yeah, I was seeing more deadpan.
Really?
Because I don't, and maybe that's just a difference in my personality. But I would think that if you have a child, then like everyone I know that's a parent. Mm-hmm. puts their children ahead of them for everything.
Oh, that's
and like clearly he's putting his sex life ahead of his son, and that's just a flaw of him as a man, but I did not get any sincerity from him. I got him I kind of saw some deadpan, but I also just saw some, I'm sick of talking about it, just deal with it, that's who I am kind of, like almost frustration, just like, look, I'm sorry.
I didn't get that at all. I've know parents who put everything before themselves when it comes to their kids.
Right.
But I also know parents on the other end of that
Sure.
that spectrum.
Right.
We're all people.
Of course.
We all have our flaws, and
Right.
this may be a debilitating affliction for this guy. He
Right.
may not. I have a hard time saying he may not have control of himself, but he may not be able to.
Or he may not have the control over himself, or he just may not be trying hard enough to be in control.
I have a hard time agreeing with
Because I want to hear what you're going to say in a minute, but I feel like if something like that is happening, and like if I was married to that woman and everything, I would want it to work. And I would say, well, maybe I need to go see a therapist, or maybe I need to do something to see if I can get a handle on my problem. He just didn't seem to want to do anything about it, just go from dental hygienist to dental hygienist. So that's why I don't really feel for him at all.
I feel for him. I don't agree with what he did.
Yeah.
I don't think that it's right what he did. I don't necessarily think that it's the end of the world. And I saw contrition there. I saw that the guy was embarrassed about himself, and he was taking a big step in owning up to it to his son.
I will give him that. The fact that he talks about it and he acknowledges the problem, but I still don't feel for him.
It can be it could work. It could work if he owns up to it, if he wants to make it work. But
Right.
but his wife doesn't want to make it work. So it takes two. It
Sure.
really does. But he needs to be honest with himself, needs to be honest with his son,
Right.
who isn't having it, and you can't really blame him for that.
Right.
But he needs to be honest with his wife, and his wife needs to either accept or kick him out. There's got to be communication.
Right.
It's not an easy thing to handle. If the
Right.
guy's not a one-woman man, he probably shouldn't be in a relationship. But
Right.
it can be worked out.
Right.
It can be worked out. It's just it takes communication. It takes it takes all parties to be on board. The
Right.
family can come first. The family can be saved, but you're going to need to work on it. Whether it's therapy, whether it's support from your family, from friends.
Right. And maybe I can be a little bit. I don't have to be so hard on him, because we don't know what else was happening outside of that episode.
No,
so we don't
true.
know if he was going to therapy, or he had tried going to therapy and it didn't work, or what have you. So
We don't know the whole story.
So I'm going. My feelings are based on only what I saw in this episode. So I'll leave that subject. I'll leave that subject with that open mind.
Cool.
So now we're back at at school, and this is where Brenda and Dylan are kind of starting to talk a little bit, and she says, "Oh, I'm sorry I couldn't come to the party," and blah blah blah, and whatnot. And you could tell that, we're with Brenda, Dylan, and Kelly, and you could tell there's just some sort of weird tension right there.
Oh man, I love this.
Cut that with a knife.
So at a couple of scenes ago at the pool, when Dylan and Kelly were in the pool, they're like, well, let's tell Brenda, because we're going to be together. We were together last summer while she was in Paris. She needs to know. If we're her friends, we need to be honest with her. Dylan's like, it's not necessary. Let's just tell her we're together and just move on, not tell her about the past. She doesn't need to know, which I kind of agree with.
Right.
I kind of agree with the fact that, they're not married. They're not together. They're boyfriend, girlfriend. It's not going to do anybody any good
Right.
to let her know that,
hey, I cheated on you at some point. Yeah.
but my favorite part was when they first the three of them, they meet in the hallway in school, and Kelly and Brenda are having their conversation. Dylan has his head turned, and he has this look, and he's just grilling Kelly, just like looking at her with his little smirk, like, yeah, you gonna say something? Say something. Say something now. So they have Kelly and Brenda have this awkward back and forth, and Dylan's like, all right, obviously you're not gonna say nothing. I gotta get to class. I'll see you dorks later. Peace. And he's out. He's out.
And then we just have the two of them are there, and Kelly's like, I so want to tell you that she doesn't say anything though, but you could read it in her face clear as day. She really wants to spill the beans, but they wind up not saying anything.
It just can't come up in a good way in that conversation. So the awkwardness hangs over the both of them. They like, oh, well, let's just move back and let's talk about Dylan back and forth, and we're not going to get anywhere. I'll see you later.
Right. Now, do you think that's right? Do you think they were handling it right, or do you think there should have been, do you think they should have been open about it?
At this point in time, at this point in the episode, when they're meeting up in the hallway, I feel that Kelly should have said, listen, Brenda, Dylan and I are together now. Maybe this isn't the best place to bring it up in the hallway in the middle of school, but I got to let you know the first time I'm seeing you that we're together now. You don't need to know about us before. You don't need to know about that, so I'm not going to tell you.
Right.
But to your face, I'm going to tell you, hey, we're together. I'm sorry that it's this way, but we're together now. And I still want to be friends with you.
Right. And we didn't know what Brenda and Dylan's status was at that time anyway.
Yeah.
So that's a big question mark, because if Brenda thinks she's still going out with Dylan, then all of a sudden she gets bushwhacked with the Dylan and Kelly thing. I can see her reacting a certain way. But if Dylan and Brenda were not dating at the time, then she had no business reacting the way she did. So
is the expectation that they were still together? Because Dylan said, I was with another girl over the summer. Didn't say it was Kelly, just said I was with another girl over the summer. So that may have precipitated their separation.
Right.
However amicable it may have been.
Right.
They really weren't together at this point in the series.
And do you really think Brenda expected him to wait for her? That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, exactly.
Why?
Exactly. So
move on with your life.
Yeah. And Dylan clearly did. So anyway, we're not getting off on a tangent, but anyway, so we're back over at the Peach Pit, and we find out that Brendan's been making his bets on the basketball games through Nat, his boss, who has a bookie named Duke, and we find out that at this past game that was on, Nat forgot to call in his bet to Duke. So he would have won $100 from the game. Instead, he didn't win anything. And Nat's like, "Oh, hey man, I'm really sorry about that. I feel bad." He offers to give him $100, and Brandon's like, "No, I can't take that from you." Which, total class. I get that. I wouldn't want someone to give me $100 out of their pocket if I didn't win it legit. But Brendan says, you can make it up to me, but not with money. Give me Duke's phone number and let me book through him myself. And I think that's where things get a little risky, because now you got a kid in high school who is betting on sports games on his own, or at least going through Nat. Nat was saying, he prefers to do the betting for him so he can keep an eye on him, which makes perfect sense. I'd want to do the same thing. But, wanting to have him access to bet on his own is a little more risky. But, maybe that's what the synopsis meant by taking a dangerous turn. But I mean, again, that's not that dangerous. It's risky, but not. I don't know that I would describe it that way.
At least this point in the series, I would say it's not risky. However, I understand. I can see him not accepting the $100. Well, this is the $100 you would have won if I placed your bet.
Right.
Maybe he should have taken it. Maybe he shouldn't have taken it. But the saying, "Give me your bookie's name," at this point in. So this is 1990s. Is it illegal for an 18-year-old or someone younger than 18-year-old to gamble?
That's a good point, because I don't know if the gambling age is 21 or 18.
Right. So we would have to find that out.
That'd be an interesting thing to find out.
As we are right now, it's it's illegal to gamble if you're under 18.
Right. And if you guys have anything you want to contribute to this, by all means, tweet us at tunein_nextweek, our Tumblr page, tunein-nextweek.tumblr.com. Let us know what you think about this.
The other thing is despite what Nat or what Brandon says, I would not have given him that bookie's name.
Me neither.
No, I'm not giving you the guy's name, but even still, let's say he was 18.
Right.
I still probably wouldn't have given him the bookie's name. No, find your own bookie.
Right.
This is my bookie. This is my guy. I'm doing you a favor by placing these bets for you.
Right.
18 or not, I'm not giving you my bookie's name. You
Right.
do this on your own. But
Right.
Nat's heart was in the right place.
Right.
The only reason I'm doing this for you through me is so I can keep an eye on you.
Right.
Great.
Which, I mean, if Brandon was my son, I would want someone keeping an eye on him like that.
Yeah.
Because
I agree.
Not to mention, you've got someone that can kind of be a mentor and say, hey, who can kind of advise him on what to do or, what would be a stupid bet. Because, I think Steve Sanders was saying that basketball's a sucker bet and stuff like that. I wouldn't have known that. At least someone that's been in the business or done some sports gambling can guide me or help me learn how to do it. I mean, there are more good reasons to have the bets going through Nat than bad reasons.
Yeah. And in the early 90s like this, why are you betting on the Cavaliers? Why are you betting on the Lakers? You should be betting on the Bulls. Dummy.
For those who don't know, I know nothing about sports.
Oh, well, this was Michael Jordan was just coming up
Oh, okay.
around this time.
Gotcha. So back to Beverly Hills here. Now we're over at Jim Walsh's office for this big meeting that was set up between the meeting of the minds. And this is where we really start to see, I think, Jack's master plan is made fully obvious here.
Unbendable, unbreakable, Jim Walsh.
Right. So we basically find out that, and Dylan breaks the news to Jim saying, hey, I want my dad to manage my money now.
Yes.
And Jim's reaction is priceless. He's like, what?
Well, that's not possible.
Yeah, and it's because it was in an irrevocable trust or irrevocable or however you say that word, which in legal terms I guess means, the terms of this cannot be modified.
You can't take this back.
Right. So, Jim is in charge of managing the trust fund until Dylan turns 21, and then once Dylan turns 21, he has access to it and can do as he pleases. But according to Jack, apparently it just takes 3 signatures: Jim's, Jack's, and Jack's ex-wife, Iris, which is Dylan's mother, to be able to modify this.
Dissolve it.
Right. But what I'm wondering is, if it's not dissolvable, why did they leave themselves an out to dissolve it? I guess for safety reasons.
That makes me think that it's not irrevocable.
It's not, because if it was truly irrevocable, there would be nothing that anyone can do legally. It would be a done deal. But apparently they're saying it's irrevocable. What they're saying, here's a way we can revoke it.
Jim has this great way of saying why Jack has no say in this, and it's due to him being a felon in regards to insider trading. He's bad with money as it is. There's no way that Jack has any weight here at all.
Right. And then he kind of dismisses Dylan. He says, hey, step out for a minute. I want to talk to Jim alone. And you see him really start to pour on the pressure.
Yeah.
He was pretty much writing it on the wall, saying that your legs are going to get broke if you don't do something about it.
He was implying that, but Jim wasn't swayed.
No, he wasn't.
Jim Walsh wasn't swayed at all. He was just like, well, it takes my signature, it takes Iris's signature, and it takes your signature. But I don't understand why Jake's signature is even valid. It can't be valid.
Why wouldn't it be? He was released from prison.
Yeah.
But the but then Jack makes a good point. He says, it's almost like you're trying to protect my son from me.
And he says, yes.
He says,
perhaps.
yes, I am.
Or no, he says, perhaps.
Yeah. But, I mean, it doesn't get any more noble than that. I mean, Jim knows exactly what's going to happen here, which later on, actually, just after this meeting, you actually see everybody back at the hotel, and Jack gets a phone call that he takes over in the bedroom, and he's on the phone with somebody saying, like, yeah, I'll get the money, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
So he's getting harassed. He apparently owes some people money, and so I mean that's where we kind of find out that something's going on behind the scenes, you know, that we don't know the details of, but we know that Jack is being, you know, being hounded for money, so that's why he's got to go after the money from his son's trust fund.
Being underhanded. So
Right.
let's say Jack signs the paperwork. He somehow convinces Iris McKay to sign the document as well. You, as Jim Walsh, would you sign the document?
Not at all.
I would not either.
Not at all.
Like
I'd burn it.
Sue me. Well, I wouldn't burn it, but I'd say sue me. Compel me to sign this document. Give me a court order compelling me to sign this document. And any harm comes to me or Dylan or anything else, this is just further proof that...
Well, yeah, I mean, get a court order saying I have to sign this document, and then I'm going to sign it with a, you know, signed under protest,
under duress.
you know, under duress
Yeah.
thing, you know, and I'm going to make you sign something that says I am not responsible for the actions taken with the money.
Yeah.
Now that it's out of my hands.
Ridiculous.
You know, I mean, like, I would only sign it with all of that protection in place, but even then, I would still avoid like hell signing that because
Yeah.
it's just bad news.
Yeah.
It's terrible news.
Get a court order, Jack. Come back with a warrant. Not
Right.
a warrant. What is... No.
Court order, probably.
Court order, yeah.
Yeah.
Come back with a court order, and then
Right.
I'll sign it.
Yeah.
Our next scene after this is we're back at the hotel room, like you mentioned.
So we talked about this already.
Yeah, he's jabbering into the phone. A little soon to celebrate, I would say.
Yeah.
Like you don't have any signatures. You've got one, maybe
Right.
yours.
Right. And you know, we don't know that Iris is going to sign it, or if she does sign it. I mean, if I had to venture a guess, I mean, I haven't watched any episodes after this one, but I have a feeling he probably sends some muscle to get Iris to sign. So
Yeah.
Iris probably signs under duress.
Yeah. Well, after this, what's interesting to me is downstairs in the hotel lobby, Dylan and Kelly meet up after this celebration, and an unknown amount of time has passed. They're down in the lobby, and they're talking more about Brenda. Hey, we were supposed to tell Brenda. We haven't told Brenda. We'll tell her no matter what. You and me together. We'll tell her tomorrow after school.
Right.
So then they start making out, and then they go hand in hand off somewhere else. How are they not permanent residents in Pound Town?
I think it's pretty obvious they're definitely permanent residents.
I think that they are. But we find out later that they're not. Which is bonkers to me.
We don't know that that's the truth either.
We don't. We may find that out later. But
Right.
So they go off. They talk about Brenda. They make out. They go off. Fade to black. Next scene is we're back at Kelly's house where David is and Kelly's mom is. David's dad is found to be out apartment hunting because Kelly comes in at 2 a.m. Her mom comes over and says, "Hey, what are you doing out at 2 a.m. till 2 a.m.?" She's like, "Well, I told you I was out having dinner until 2 a.m." She's like, "Yeah. When did you wait up for me?" It's like, "Oh, sorry, I'm all messed up about Mel and blah."
So they're fine after this little argument, and you hear the baby start crying, and we go in there and we find David is holding the baby with a bottle and everything, and you find out that, you know, he really loves taking care of his little baby sister, who you find out her name is Erin. And then we find out now that David's not going to have to live anywhere else. He can stay there with Kelly's mom, which I thought was really nice, and it seems like a nice little family unit going on there.
Yeah, and they said, "Well, what if my dad has something to say about it?" Well, let him have something to say about it. He owes me. This guy's been screwing around all over town. He probably owes money all over the place too.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna
He's
call
been
this
sneaking
favor
into
in.
Bone Zone.
Right?
He's been sneaking into Pound Town without a pass.
Without a pass, without tickets.
Right. So that's kind of a nice little thing. And so I think now we're over at the Walsh place, right?
We are. We're at the Walsh
And
place.
this is where all the is where the shit goes down.
No, dude, no. So this is so the baby thing happens. They invite David to stay the next day at school.
Oh yeah,
this is it.
Andrea's hair color.
And well, there's a couple of things.
Yeah.
So Dylan and Brenda meet, and Brenda's like, "Oh, hey, Dylan, what's up?" And Dylan's all like, "Hey, Brenda." Just straight
Sounds
aloof.
just like her.
Just straight aloof.
You sound just like him.
Not trying to have any kind of conversation. She's trying to draw out something from him, and he's just like,
Hey, what's up?
"Nah, baby, I'm good. I'll talk to you later, I guess.
I gotta go.
Peace."
Gotta go to class.
So he walks away. And over the PA is this weird like reggae poppy song.
Right, which we find out the school has their radio station that David is a DJ at.
Yes, David and Donna are in some like radio booth.
The little DJ booth, yeah.
So Dylan walks by, you see him walk by, and they're playing this weird song over the PA system between classes.
Yeah, and you know, I forget when this topic came up. We were talking about it, but you know, the school's got a radio station. When are they going to listen to this?
School radio is one thing, and that's fine if you're on lunch, you're in your car, or even after school, you can listen to whatever school programming. There are a lot of colleges that do this.
Sure.
But the high school itself, I like that it has a radio program, but to play songs over the intercom, over the PA between classes is just out of control. It's just out of control.
Yeah.
So that happens. Dylan walks by.
And really quick, I got to say this. I mean, I don't know how it was where you went to high school, but in the high school that I went to, as soon as the one class ended, the bell would go off. There would be this mass exodus out the room. And then, you know, I was in a multi-building high school. So there would be a whole bunch of kids funneling down the stairs, out the door, across the street, up into the next building. I mean, we may have had 5 minutes between classes. It might have been a little longer, maybe 7 minutes. But nobody was going to have time to socialize because, I mean, especially the school that I was at, no lateness was tolerated, and it was really pretty strict. So, you know, like nobody would have time to breathe between classes. It was literally, you know, close your books, stuff everything into your backpack, grab your backpack, bolt over to your next class, and get there before the next bell rings.
Get your shit and go.
Right. So, you know, I mean, why would it be any different I would think in a school like this? I mean, unless they have like 15 minutes between classes.
Which I think is crazy.
Right.
I was in a very large high school on the East Coast. It was a single building, 2 floors, but it was a mile in length. And
A mile long?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. Literally.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's a very, very large school. One of the biggest schools in the state.
Oh wow.
But so we also had about 7-10 minutes to get between classes.
Right.
And it was there was no time. There was time to talk to people as you walked to your next class.
Right.
But it was there was no time to play a song over the PA system.
Right.
It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
So
I feel like they just gave him something to do. You know,
they had to. They had to have.
he needed more screen time, so they just gave him something to do.
Brian Austin Green just needed as much screen time as he could.
Yeah. But anyway, so
In comes Andrea. Andrea.
Andrea.
I apologize to Andrea. I apologize to Beverly Hills 90210. And most of all, I apologize to Darren Star.
I want to say that I've had to have seen at least one episode where she rips somebody apart for pronouncing her name wrong.
I'd like to see that episode.
I'll see if I can find it. Anyway, so Andrea is totally excited about her new change, which no one can tell the difference. But
I couldn't tell the difference.
I couldn't either. But according to Donna and David, they were like, "Oh, you looks great, it looks wonderful," blah blah blah, and she's like, "Oh, thanks," and then she turns around and leaves, and
they exchanged some Donna and David then exchanged dialogue. It's like, does it look different to you? It's like, nah, it looks the same to me. So why did you say that? Well, my dad always said, tell smart women they're beautiful, and tell beautiful women they're smart, and that's how you do it.
That just sounds contradictory to me. I mean, wouldn't you just want to tell a woman she's smart and beautiful and just, be honest?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're going to be honest. You're not going to tell them they're smart and beautiful if they're not smart and beautiful.
True. Well,
Anyway,
what, you say you're dumb and ugly? I mean...
No, honey, you're dumb and ugly, but I love you anyway.
That's for another podcast.
I love you for you.
Exactly.
So, Andrea... hang on. Dylan and Brenda have their interaction. Andrea comes in, has her interaction with David and Donna, and then moves to another classroom and meets up with
Steve and Brandon,
and then has another 3 to 5 minute interaction with them about, hey, you like it? You like my hair? And they can't tell the difference either. Steve, I liked this about Steve. Steve played it off like, yeah, it looks radical. Like I told you 45 minutes ago at the top of the episode. But he doesn't notice anything different.
He was like, "It looks good on you. Not too bad, not too much, but just enough of a difference." Like he literally told her exactly what she wanted to hear.
Yeah, and he played it so smoothly,
very smoothly.
I really really appreciated that delivery.
Yeah. So I think now we're at the Walsh place for the shit going down.
Yes. So this is after the school day. Knock, knock, knock on the door. Who is it? It is Dylan and Kelly at the Walsh residence.
Right, and the shit's about to get real.
It is. So they say, hey, Brenda, we're here to talk. Can we talk to you? She's like, yeah, come on in. No. You're going to want to take a walk with us. Oh, okay. Let me grab my coat. She goes and grab her coat.
And Little Miss Drama Queen, you can read on her face exactly what's about to happen.
She knows what they're there for.
Yeah.
Her high-waisted jeans, by the way, made her have such a long ass. I was not a fan. I'm not a fan of high-waisted jeans, high-waisted anything in particular, but this particular pair made her look like she had a 2-story ass.
At least.
It was not appropriate.
At least.
Anyway, she grabs her leather jacket, has that look of apprehension on her face, throws it on, walks out with him. They're taking a walk down the street, and they lay it on her.
Yeah, and they're just blunt with her, and they're saying, "Hey, we're together," and blah blah blah. And of course, Brenda, being Little Miss Drama Queen, she's like, she's way overreacting. I thought you were my friends, and blah 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 blah. I mean,
do you think she's overreacting?
I do.
You really do?
I do, because I think she could have been like, because again, not knowing what her status with Dylan was at the beginning of this episode.
Yeah.
I think let me take a step back. She reacted very harshly, but I think
I agree.
I would call it overreacting if she was not together with Dylan at the beginning of the episode. If she and Dylan were together, then she had every right to be as pissed as she was.
Right.
I would say my description of her is dependent on what her status with Dylan was.
I agree that she was overreacting. However, I don't think it was that far-fetched for her to react the way that she did, based off of, unless she had no idea that Dylan and Kelly were together, which I think is preposterous, based off of how often they were hanging out this episode and how often Brenda saw them together in this episode.
Right.
She would be a fool not to see this happening before her eyes.
Right.
But yes, she was overreacting, but I don't think it was that out of left field, the way that she reacted.
Right. But she pretty much storms off saying, "I hate you both. Don't ever talk to me again." I made a note. We're only in season 3. We got 7 more seasons to go. I'm not worried. They'll be talking again at some point.
Yeah.
I
know they make up and they're friends again.
Oh yeah, because they probably go on again and off again at least 2 or 3 more times.
Yeah. So after this, roll credits.
Right. So ending it right on a cliffhanger.
On a cliffhanger. What happens with Dylan, Kelly, and Brenda? What happens with Jack McKay
and the money?
Yeah. What happens with with Brandon's inner demons, his inner gambling demons?
Yeah. You know,
What happens with Steve's Adidas tracksuit?
I know. You know, the only thing we have to do, we got to tune in next week.
You gotta tune in next week.
But I mean, thankfully, this being 2016, you can just go to Hulu and, you know, watch the next episode, which...
Actually, I might do.
Me too. I'm 34 years old, but hey, you know, nothing wrong with rekindling my past just to see what happens with those people.
Just to see what happens next.
Yeah. But no, that's the end of the episode.
Roll credits. Yeah.
And you know, definitely want to see what your highlights and lowlights on this were, and I think this would be, I'd like to know who would win in a fight.
All right, let's. Do you want to do the fight first?
Yeah, let's do the fight first. So,
right.
Okay.
Well, who would you pick for? What two characters would you pit against each other?
Oh, Brenda and Kelly.
Brenda and Kelly is the obvious choice. I like that, and I'm going to go with you on that, but I would posit Donna and Andrea.
Well, what do they have to fight about?
The two vanilla wafers.
What do they have to fight about, though? Because, you know, like, I could see the two of them doing, like, the friendly, girlish, like, mud wrestling just being funny, you know? But I could see Kelly and Brenda, like, getting into a seething argument where...
Absolutely.
You know, where, like, the foam is coming out of their mouth and, like, smoke is coming out of their ears, you know? Because you could just see there's just that raw tension there between them. You know, I would love to see Andrea and Donna go at it, mainly because I have no idea what would happen. I think the two of them would just start laughing.
I think they both would come out with streaks in their hair because they would be fighting.
But we wouldn't notice it.
We wouldn't notice it. If I had to put Andrea versus Donna, it would be in a bathroom, in a small bathroom. They would have no weapons. They would duke it out.
What about makeup? Would there be like bottles of makeup on the counter, or an empty bathroom?
It would be, I'd say, a regular bathroom. So there would be the regular toiletries and makeup, things like that.
Okay.
And I would, as much as I hate to say this, I would put Donna over Andrea because she's got the height, she's got the size.
Yep. And also Andrea is a bookworm, so she probably doesn't have much, you know, muscle to begin with. And even in the opening credits, you see Andrea standing by a surfboard and she does like the flex of the muscle and everything. Yeah. And it's just embarrassing. There's nothing there.
Right. We're in agreement that Donna would take Andrea.
I agree.
Let's go Brenda versus
Kelly.
Brenda versus Kelly. Where's the scenario? How are they? Where is this happening?
In the elevator at the hotel.
In the elevator at the hotel, but Brenda would never went to the. Okay.
You never know. She might go to the hotel to see Dylan.
Close quarters combat.
Right. So
this precludes no weapons. No. This is just.
Well, they're in the elevator, so they would have whatever they would have on them. So purses, jackets, you know, whatever it is.
I would say a jacket. I didn't see any of them carry a purse this episode. None of them, except for like book bags in school.
Right, but let's assume that if let's just say Brenda's going to visit Dylan, if she plans on spending the night, she may bring a night bag with her. She may have some stuff with her. So, you know, so Brenda and Kelly are in the elevator, and the elevator gets stuck, and the two of them start to have it out. My money is actually going to be on. It's kind of a tough one.
This is tough.
I'm going to go with Brenda.
Oh, man, you were reading my mind. I'm with Brenda, too. Why Brenda?
So I'm going to go with Brenda because I didn't see much of a substance in how Kelly talked about being with Dylan. I saw more of a substance in the relationship from how Brenda talked about being with Dylan. I don't know if that's... Well, I got the feeling like they had a deeper connection and there was a deeper... love there. And because of the fact that I know that in the series Brenda and Dylan were on again off again for so many so many times, so there was certainly they have a lot of history together. I'm going to venture to guess that they have more history than Kelly and Dylan. So I feel like Kelly and Dylan are a temporary thing, and Brenda's genuine true love for Dylan is a lot deeper than Kelly. So I think that would fuel her rage and fuel her in battle.
Brenda, I agree with you. But for to be put in a different way, Brenda was enraged. Brenda yelled. Brenda was passionate.
Right.
About
She had fire.
Yes.
That was ultimately what I was getting with.
Yes,
That was what I was getting to.
Kelly didn't fight for her friendship with Brenda. Didn't fight for it. She's like, this is how it is. This is what it was. I don't want to lie to you, but this is the situation. And
right.
Brenda is like, I hate you. Well, I know you hate me, but let's talk this out. Let's work through this together.
Right.
No, Kelly didn't fight for it. Kelly was just...
She just gave up.
Just gave up, and that's why I think Kelly would go down.
I agree.
As I want Kelly to win. I want Kelly to triumph over Brenda, but Kelly's got no chance.
Yeah.
Kelly's got no chance against Brenda. Brenda will... She's got that Walsh fire.
Well, yeah, and I think Brenda's got a little more muscle. She's a little bit beefier of a person too.
Physically, yeah. I'd say. She definitely has a nice figure. Brenda does, but she's got wider shoulders. She's a bit taller than Kelly. She's got some reach on her,
and she's got a 2-story ass.
She does have a 2-story ass, and that, my friends, makes all the difference.
Right. Ass man.
Ass man.
But
call back.
Yeah, people, listeners, please let us know, what do you think? Who would win in a fight, Kelly versus Brenda or Andrea versus Donna? Tweet us at tunein_nextweek, and also you can hit us up on our website, tunein-nextweek.tumblr.com.
Celebrity Deathmatch.
That's right.
Let's do highlights, lowlights.
Yes, definitely.
Do you want to go first? Or me go first?
I can go first here. I'm gonna say I'm gonna say that my highlight of this episode was integrity. The integrity being demonstrated by the people who could really see what was going on. The people who, like when Jim Walsh was really looking out for Brenda and not wanting her to get involved, for for Brenda for people wanting to look out for other people, Nat wanting to look out for Brandon with his gambling and and so forth. So like just there was that integrity that was still there, despite people wanting to take the easy way out or people wanting to make some mistakes. There was still people were still looking after them, and I just thought that was nice to see that, instead of just people being impulsive. Wow, that's kind of deep, right? Yeah, very deep, and admirable as well. Yeah, I guess being 34 and watching a teen drama brings out the best in you. Gives me a different perspective on things. Yeah. What about you? What's a high point for you? My high point was a toss up between two ridiculous scenarios, but I really had to narrow it down to the pool scene. Okay. The pool scene. It was very reminiscent of Showgirls. Dylan trying to convince Kelly to get in the pool with him. Hey, but what about your dad? My dad's going to bed soon. But what about Brenda? Well, Brenda's not here. You're here. But I don't have a bathing suit. I'll buy you a bathing suit. Get in the goddamn pool with me. He had a rebuttal for everything. He did. And they got in the pool, and it was a heated pool, and they got all makey-outy. They schemed on getting together and cutting Brenda out of the whole thing. Yep. I enjoyed that scene the most, but it probably wasn't. It was my highlight, but it wasn't the highlight of the episode as a whole. It was just like a minor plot point that I thought was kind of over the top, and that's why I enjoyed it. Okay, that's cool. So how about a low point? What's one of your low points? Well, what was your low point of the episode? The character Jack McKay. Hate that guy. Hate that guy more than I hate Brian Austin Green. Now, do you hate Brian Austin Green or do you hate David Silver, the character? I hate Brian Austin Green. I really want to say I hate David Silver, but I can't hold anything against David Silver because he's just a guy trying to get through, at least up to this point. At least up to this point. I know David Silver later on gets a little douchey himself. But My low light is Dylan's father, Jack Yeah.
And his obvious smarminess, the fact that his overconfidence gives him license to believe he can get what he wants, he can do what he wants, he can say what he wants. I don't like that guy. I want nothing but bad things to happen to him.
I agree with you, and I'm going to go with you on that. I'm also going to add that Jack McKay is my low point in this episode also, because he believes that he can bring his criminal activity to his son, and he is going to make his son suffer, much like the 300 other people that have suits open against him for embezzling and whatnot. He's going to do the same thing he did to 300 strangers to his own flesh and blood.
His son is just another pawn.
Right. And I think another low point, or even a lower point, is that his son doesn't see it. Is that Dylan doesn't see it. He's oblivious to this whole thing.
That's terrible. Well, he sees it, but he doesn't care because he believes it's getting... He says, I don't care about the money. The money's not an issue. If it makes my dad happy and it brings us closer together, I quote, I'm along for the ride.
Yeah, that's...
It's deplorable what he's doing to his kid.
Yeah.
It's awful.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. But, yeah. So... That being said, that kind of brings us down to the end of...
At a low point, too.
It does.
I know. I don't want it to be like...
You know what, though? I've got something good to add, actually.
All right.
I want to send a quick thanks to JB Recording. That's actually the recording studio that we've become the resident podcast at. So visit...
Home sweet home.
That's right. Visit www.jbrecording.com. It's a great recording studio doing audio production work and music mixing and mastering and all that good stuff over the internet. So definitely check those folks out. Also wanted to just once again give all of our contact information here. Twitter at tunein_nextweek, Tumblr tunein-nextweek.tumblr.com. You can also find us on SoundCloud, tunein_nextweek. Also, you can get us on YouTube. We do need subscribers, though, in order for us to get a YouTube website address.
Subscribe!
Yeah, please subscribe to us on YouTube. You can get to our YouTube channel by going to our website, tunein-nextweek.tumblr.com, and clicking on the YouTube link there. It's on the sidebar when you scroll down there.
Aren't we on Facebook also?
I'm working on that. So I'm working on setting up a Facebook page for us as well. So that's going to be coming in the future.
Well, tune in soon for
that. That's right. So definitely keep posted on our podcast here. We really appreciate everybody listening. Please feel free to send us anything you want us to know, whether it's a question, whether it's some feedback, good or bad.
If you don't care, tell us you don't care.
Exactly. Just we want to hear from you. We want to know what you guys are thinking, because we have a blast doing this stuff for you. We appreciate you guys listening to us, and we're certainly going to keep on keeping on. So anything you got any requests for episodes you want us to do? We got some really great themed episodes coming up pretty soon. We definitely stick around for that. It's going to be some good stuff. But in the short term, you guys have a good one, and don't forget, tune in next week.